Each person's life is actually like a long journey, sometimes bathed in warm sunshine, other times buffeted by wind and rain. But the most important thing is that only you can walk your own path. No one can walk it for you, nor can anyone live your life for you. Yet, so often, we allow the gazes, words, and judgments of others to bind us tightly with invisible ropes. Some people live their entire lives exhausted, solely because they believe they must live to please the world. By the time they look back, their youth is gone, dreams are lost, and their hearts are calloused from the wounds left by public opinion. The Buddha once taught that if our minds are pulled by external circumstances, swayed by the world's praise and criticism, we will never find true peace. Only when we learn to return to ourselves, to cherish each breath, each step, each moment of the present, can we truly live a life worth living. Think about it. Have you ever felt sad because of a single, unintentional remark from someone? They tell you you're not good enough, not beautiful enough, not successful enough. You take those words to heart and torment yourself. But in reality, their words are just a fleeting breeze, and what turns them into a knife cutting into your heart is your own attachment. The Buddha taught that all suffering arises from the mind. What others say or think is their business. But do we allow that to become shackles binding our lives? That is our choice. Life is our own. It doesn't belong to others. If you constantly live to please everyone, you will lose yourself. Life is too short to sacrifice your joy and peace for the sake of public opinion. There's a beautiful image many people are familiar with. Life is like a vehicle. Others may accompany you for a while. Some may travel further with you. But ultimately, you are the one driving that vehicle. If you constantly let the opinions of passengers decide your direction, you will lose your true destination. In Buddhist teachings, there's a profound phrase: live according to conditions. Living according to conditions doesn't mean giving up or simply letting days pass. It means knowing that everyone in this life has their own karma, their own path, their own challenges, and that you need to walk your own path as peacefully as possible. The more you cling to the world's praise and criticism, the more you suffer. The more you let go of comparisons and judgments, the lighter you become. I want to share a short story. There was a young woman who always lived in fear of what others thought of her. She constantly wanted to be recognized, to be praised, to the point of losing her true joy. One day at the pagoda, she heard the master teach, "Human life is like a flower that blossoms in the sun and falls in the wind. But the flower never asks what the wind thinks of it." From then on, she began to learn how to live for herself, practice mindful breathing, and write down things she was grateful for each day. And, strangely, when she stopped caring so much about others' perceptions, she found freedom and simple joy in every moment. If today you are tired of living according to others' wishes, try to stop for a moment. Place your hand on your chest, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, no one can live my life for me. Live according to conditions. Because the more you cling, the more you self-inflict suffering. And right now, you can practice something very simple. Call your parents or a loved one to say thank you. That is the first step to returning to yourself, to realizing that This life doesn't need to be lived according to public opinion, but simply fully in love and gratitude. Perhaps in life, each of us has at least once fallen into sadness due to an unintentional word from someone else. Just a short remark, seemingly fleeting like the wind, can sometimes deeply engrave itself in our hearts like a sharp knife. Some are criticized for their appearance, some are ridiculed for their family background, some are gossiped about behind their backs for a small mistake. These words don't touch the skin, but they silently gnaw at the soul, causing us to lose sleep, torment ourselves, and lose faith in ourselves. That is the power of public opinion. An invisible weapon that can wound the human heart, more potent than any visible weapon. The Buddha once taught that our mind is like a lake. If it is stirred by the wind, waves will rise, the water will become cloudy, and it will no longer reflect the sky. If stillness is maintained, the lake will be clear and perfectly reflect the light. The world's praise or criticism is like these winds. If we let them blow our minds, our hearts will waver, and peace will be lost. But if we keep our minds still, knowing that the noises outside are merely fleeting winds, then no words can harm us. Therefore, caring too much about what others think or say about us actually only makes us lose our inner freedom. We turn ourselves into puppets pulled by the strings of public gaze and judgment. Try to imagine, every day you have to hear what others say about you. Praise elates you. Criticism saddens you. Your whole life fluctuates like a small boat on the open sea, simply because you care too much about public opinion. That is why many people live tired lives, losing simple happiness. The more you try to please the world, the further you drift from yourself. And then, when you realize it, your heart is already bound, no longer free. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. That is the simple truth the Buddha left for the world. There's an old story told many times, carrying a profound lesson. One day, Laozi was walking when a man, enraged, stood before him and cursed him all day long. The man used harsh words, throwing all his anger at Laozi, hoping for a reaction. But Laozi remained silent, his gaze as calm as a tranquil lake. Finally, the man angrily asked, "Why don't you say anything? Aren't you going to react?" Laozi gently replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does that gift belong?" The man, surprised, answered, "It still belongs to the giver." Laozi smiled. "It's the same. If I don't accept the words you curse me with, they still belong to you." That saying was like a sharp sword cutting the invisible ropes of public opinion. It shows us an undeniable truth. Others' words only hurt us when we accept them, when we embrace them like a burden. If we don't accept them, don't hold on to them, those words cannot harm our minds. The lesson from that story is invaluable. We cannot stop others from speaking, because public opinion will always be the same. Praise and criticism are normal, but we have the right to choose how to react. We have the right not to accept harshness, not to let it pollute our minds. Calmness is the strongest armor to protect inner peace. If we know how to live like that, we will be much lighter, because we will no longer be caught in the whirlpool of praise and criticism. I want to share another real-life story. There was a woman who was a small vendor at the market. Because of competition, many people around her often spoke harshly, criticized, and even fabricated stories to demean her. At first, she was very angry, crying silently at night, not understanding why she was treated that way. But then one day, she heard the story of Laozi and the cursing man. She sat and thought, and decided to try applying it. From then on, whenever she heard someone criticize her, she would just smile and tell herself that it was a gift they offered that she didn't need to accept. From that day on, her heart became calmer. Her business also improved, and people gradually became less malicious towards her. That story shows that by simply changing our perspective, we can turn pain into a lesson and injury into inner strength. So, what should we do to protect ourselves from public opinion? The answer is to practice small steps. You can start with a very simple exercise. Whenever you hear someone say something unkind about you, don't react hastily. Take a deep breath, place your hand on your chest, and ask yourself, do I need to accept this gift? If you feel it's a truth you need to change, gently acknowledge and change it. But if it's just baseless judgment, breathe out and let it go. You can also write down the words that make you sad, then fold the paper, put it in a separate box as if sending them back to their owner. That's a way to remind yourself that public opinion has no right to determine the peace in your soul. To help your mind become firmer, you can practice contemplation. Each morning, sit still for a few minutes. Visualize a blooming flower. The flower still emits fragrance, still beautiful. Whether people praise or criticize, your life is the same. Your existence is already precious. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Just live according to conditions. Because the more you cling, the more you self-inflict suffering. And now, the channel of responsive Buddhist Dharma wants to send you a message. If today you are carrying wounds from public opinion in your heart, gently lay them down. Take a deep breath, smile at yourself, and remember that no one can live your life for you. And no one can make you suffer if you don't allow it. May you always maintain peace in every step. Always have enough faith to be yourself. And always know that you deserve a free and peaceful life. There are days when we feel like the whole world is against us. When we fail at work, we think it's because our boss is too harsh. When family conflicts arise, we blame our loved ones for not understanding us. When friends drift apart, we accuse them of being indifferent throughout our lives. It seems we always seek an external reason to justify our own suffering. But the more we live this way, the more helpless we become, because we have inadvertently given others the power to control our lives. We allow our happiness or suffering to be determined by the attitudes, gazes, and words of others. That is the reason why many people live their entire lives in resentment without ever finding true peace. The Buddha once taught a simple yet powerful lesson. We ourselves bear the consequences of our actions. No one else can bear our karmic results for us, just as no one can live a day of our lives for us. If we sow good seeds, we will reap sweet fruit. If we sow bad seeds, we will receive bitter suffering. That is the clear and fair law of cause and effect. When we understand this, we realize that life is not in the hands of others, but in our own hands. All change, all peace, all happiness begin with us taking control of our minds. Many people suffer because they constantly complain about fate. They believe they are poor because heaven destined them to be poor. They suffer because life oppresses them. But resentment never diminishes suffering. It only makes it heavier. It's like an injured person who, instead of seeking treatment, keeps complaining and blaming, and the wound only becomes more infected. To escape suffering, we must learn to take responsibility for ourselves. When we take responsibility, we gain the power to change. When we don't blame, we have the ability to rise again. And when we understand that no one can live this life for us, we learn to cherish every breath, every step of our own. There is an ancient story told about Confucius and a student. One day, a student came to him, complaining about his poverty, the injustice of life, and how people always oppressed and despised him. He resented and grieved, hoping Confucius would give him a word of liberation. Confucius listened and then said, "Extend your hand." The student extended his hand, and Confucius placed a stone in the student's palm and said, "If you grasp it tightly, you will carry this stone for the rest of your life. But if you let go, it will fall to the ground, and you will be light." To hold or to let go is up to you. No one can decide for you. The student silently realized that he himself was the one who chose how to live: resentment or peace, suffering or tranquility. It all began with his own decision. That lesson is also similar to everyday life. There was a man who lost everything in a failed business venture. His wife left, friends turned their backs, and people ridiculed him. He plunged into sorrow and spent his days complaining that everything was caused by others. But then one day, he heard the Buddha's teaching: "Whoever sows a seed will reap its fruit. We ourselves bear the consequences of our actions." He suddenly woke up, realizing that he had once been greedy, hasty, and careless, and that was the cause of his failure. Instead of continuing to resent, he began to learn to slow down, focus on doing good deeds, and gradually rebuild from scratch. Many years later, he achieved a stable and peaceful life. He always reminded his children and grandchildren that happiness is not bestowed by others, but is created and controlled by oneself. So how do we truly master our minds in daily life? The first thing is to learn to identify emotions. Whenever we are sad or angry, instead of hastily blaming, stop and ask, who truly created this sadness? Is it caused by others or by my own mind's attachment? When we ask such questions, we will clearly see that most suffering arises from the way we perceive things. Others may say unkind words, but we can choose not to let them hurt us. Others may do wrong, but we can choose to forgive and let go. A simple exercise you can practice today is to take a notebook and write down 3 things you are resenting. It could be a person, a situation, or yourself. Then, continue by writing down 3 things you can do right now to change that situation. When you look at the page, you will realize that you have more power than you think. The power of choice is always in our hands. And once we realize we are the captain of our life's ship, we will no longer let external storms sink us. Additionally, you can practice mindful breathing to maintain inner peace. Whenever you feel your mind waver, take a deep breath in, breathe out slowly, and remind yourself, I am the master of my life. No one else bears this karma for me. Just a few breaths like that, and you will feel your heart become steadier. If today you are suffering, please do not blame life, nor hand over your power to others. Believe that you are strong enough to rise, wise enough to change, compassionate enough to forgive yourself. Remember the saying, live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. May you have a new day with a truly peaceful mind, to see that no one can live your life for you, nor can anyone carry your burdens, but you yourself can make your life lighter and more meaningful. Perhaps in life, everyone has at least once blamed themselves for doing something wrong. Some fall in love, some fail at work, some speak carelessly and hurt loved ones. Some, due to excessive ambition, lose friends and colleagues. At such times, we often feel heavy-hearted, thinking a mistake is an end, an indelible stain. But have you noticed? It is these very stumbles that leave us with lessons more valuable than success. No one's life follows a straight, flat path. Every path has potholes, pebbles, and unexpected turns, and what matters is not how many times we've erred, but whether we dare to rise after those mistakes. The Buddha once taught that no human being is perfect. We are born with karmic forces, obscured by ignorance, so making mistakes is inevitable. But what is precious is that we know how to look back, to contemplate, to recognize the cause of our suffering, and gradually transform it. He often emphasized that failure is not the end, but an opportunity for us to learn to let go of attachments, to learn to rise with clear wisdom. Mistakes are not an end point, but the seeds for our growth. Every wound may leave a scar, but from that scar, we see our resilient strength. There's a very familiar philosophy that we should remember. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. When we stubbornly cling to past mistakes, we are like someone holding a hot coal in their hand. The tighter we squeeze, the more it hurts. But if we let go, we can step forward lightly. In the journey of being human, mistakes are unavoidable, but how we face them determines whether we grow. If we look back at history, we will see many great lessons about mistakes and growth. A prominent story is from the time of Qin Shi Huang, the emperor famous for building the Great Wall. When he determined to build this magnificent structure, he mobilized hundreds of thousands of laborers, forcing them to work hard day and night. Many died along the way. Many families were broken, and the people resented him. That was a great mistake, because his thirst for power and desire for eternal fame made him blind to the suffering of the people. But through these mistakes, later generations understood that no grand project comes without a price, and that price further ingrained the lesson that for a nation to be stable, there needs to be a balance between physical infrastructure and human happiness. Qin Shi Huang's mistake became a reminder for future generations. A leader who only thinks of his own ambition and ignores the welfare of the people, no matter how great his work, will leave wounds in the heart of history. But try to look at it from another angle. If not for those mistakes, how could humanity have such a magnificent Great Wall as it does today, to become a World Heritage Site? The mistake of one era transformed into a lesson for all ages. And that very fact helps us understand that mistakes not only bring suffering, but can also become the foundation for growth. If we know how to learn from them, in daily life, we are no different from Qin Shi Huang in that story. Every wrong decision can bring suffering to ourselves and others. Sometimes, in anger, we utter words that hurt loved ones. Sometimes, in rashness, we invest in uncertain ventures, only to lose both assets and faith. Sometimes, just for pride, we do things against our conscience, only to regret them later. But the important thing is whether we dare to confront that mistake, see it as a lesson, or do we continue to blame and avoid? A wise person is not someone who has never made a mistake, but someone who knows how to admit mistakes, knows how to learn from mistakes, to grow. The Buddha once said, "Like a potter, with each wrong tap, the ceramic pot becomes more perfect." Humans are the same. If we don't go through stumbles, how can we understand what resilience is, what compassion is, what letting go is? Mistakes are a part of the spiritual journey, helping us grow both in mind and wisdom. To truly learn from mistakes, we need to practice contemplation. A simple method is to keep a letting go journal. Whenever we make a mistake, instead of just blaming ourselves, write it down. Where did that mistake come from? What consequences did it cause? And what can we learn from it? When writing, don't just write with reason. Write with your whole heart to clearly see your emotions. Gradually, you will realize that mistakes are no longer a burden, but become valuable lessons. Another practice is mindful breathing. When your mind is troubled by a mistake, sit down, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale slowly. Whisper to yourself, "I breathe in. I recognize my mistake. I breathe out. I smile at it." Thus, each breath will help you feel more at peace and gradually let go of the heaviness in your heart. You can also practice contemplating a flower. Looking at a flower, we see that it is beautiful, not because it is perfect, but because it is harmonious with its petals, its leaves, even its withered spots. Our lives are the same. Mistakes are those withered spots. But if we know how to embrace them, they still contribute to making us complete and rich in experience. I want to tell you that mistakes are an indispensable part of the human journey. Don't give up hastily because of one failure. Don't think you are unworthy of happiness because of one stumble. See every mistake as a lesson, a stepping stone for you to grow. Remember the Buddha's words, "Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer." Letting go of mistakes doesn't mean forgetting them, but learning to look back with a peaceful mind and then moving forward more steadily. If today you feel heavy-hearted due to a mistake, try to stop for a few minutes. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Tell yourself, "I am not perfect, but I am growing every day. I am grateful for the mistakes that taught me how to live better." And start again, right this moment, with a peaceful smile. Have you ever experienced a feeling where, because of someone's words, you couldn't find peace all day? It might just be a very small criticism, like, "You're too thin lately," or "You're not good at anything," but it keeps lingering in your mind, making you think incessantly. Sometimes, no direct insult is needed. Just a gaze, a sneer, a casual remark is enough to make your heart waver. Life is already full of worries and burdens, yet public opinion sometimes adds salt to the wound, making an already fragile heart even more vulnerable. Some people lose sleep for many nights due to a single judgment. Some lose faith in themselves due to a criticism. Some even miss valuable opportunities in life just because they fear others' ridicule. The Buddha once taught that in life, no one escapes praise or criticism. Praise and criticism are like fleeting winds. If the mind does not cling, the heart is at peace. He clearly stated that we cannot force people to be silent, nor can we control what others say. A wise person is not one who can silence public opinion, but one who can keep their mind steadfast amidst such words of praise and criticism. Because ultimately, public opinion is like the wind, without form or shape. It blows and then vanishes. Only our mind determines peace or suffering. If we let our heart be like a dry leaf, even a gentle breeze is enough to scatter us. But if we nurture our mind like a strong tree root, no matter how fierce the external storm, the roots will cling deep to the earth, and the trunk will stand tall and proud. A wise person is precisely someone who knows how to temper their mind in this way. They are like a silversmith, patiently removing impurities, bit by bit each day, so their mind becomes brighter and clearer. The silversmith does not fear the dirtiness of the metal. They only need perseverance, and the fire will burn away all excess. A wise person is the same. They do not fear the world's gossip, but only need to train their mind and will. And eventually, they will maintain purity and clear insight. There's a very famous ancient story that you have probably heard, the story of Chuangzi and the butterfly dream. Chuangzi was a great Chinese philosopher. He recounted that one night he dreamed he transformed into a butterfly, fluttering freely and peacefully, unburdened by anything. When he awoke, he suddenly wondered, was it Chuangzi who dreamed he was a butterfly? Or is the butterfly now dreaming it is Chuangzi? From that dream, he realized that human life is like a dream, and the gossip, praise, criticism, honor, and disgrace in life are merely fleeting illusions. The only thing that remains is whether our mind truly understands itself. If we understand ourselves, others' words cannot sway us. If we believe in our path, no one can make us waver. Just like Chuangzi, he didn't need to distinguish whether he was a man dreaming of a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming of a man, because what was important was not the explanation, but the peace in his soul when facing the impermanence of life. That is the wisdom of one who sees further, beyond the whirlpool of public opinion. In modern life, we can easily see many similar situations. Some people get angry, argue, and even lose friendships and inner peace due to a few comments on social media. But there are also people who, when criticized, simply smile. They don't need to refute, nor do they need to prove anything, because they know clearly who they are, and they know the meaning of what they do. That is the courage of wisdom. Try to think, if one day someone tells you that you are useless, that you won't amount to anything, how would you react? If you believe that statement, you will be sad, losing all faith. But if you look deeper, you will see that it is just a statement emanating from a prejudiced or ignorant mind. It is not the truth, nor does it have the right to determine the value of your life. You are still you, with your own abilities, your own path, your own soul. So why allow a casual remark from someone to shake your entire life? A wise person protects their mind from public opinion precisely in this way. They don't let others decide their joy or sorrow. They are like a steady helmsman. Even if storms rage outside, the boat still follows the chosen direction. Living in this world, the important thing is not to prevent all gossip, but to keep a clear mind, to maintain alertness so that every step is steady. So how do we cultivate that wisdom? The Buddha taught that to maintain inner peace, we must return to our breath, return to ourselves. When we know how to stop, how to take a deep breath in and slowly breathe out, we will feel our hearts calm down. Then, the words of praise and criticism will be like distant voices, no longer powerful enough to affect us. A very simple practice you can apply immediately. That is, whenever you hear a word that saddens you, instead of reacting immediately, stop. Take 3 deep breaths and quietly tell yourself, live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. You will find your mind much lighter. Another exercise is to keep a letting go journal. Every evening before bed, take a pen and paper and write down the words you heard during the day that hurt you. Then, right below those words, write a response from a compassionate and wise heart. For example, if someone told you you were incompetent, write, I know I am still learning. I appreciate my own efforts. If someone criticized you for not being beautiful, write, true beauty comes from the soul. I am nurturing my soul every day. After writing, you can fold the paper and place it under your pillow as a way to let go before falling asleep. You can also practice contemplating a flower. Look deeply into a small flower and see that it is beautiful, not because it compares itself to other flowers, but because it simply blooms in its own way. Humans are the same. Each of us has our own value, and we don't need to live according to anyone else's judgment. When you understand this, you will find that public opinion no longer matters. What matters most is maintaining a clear mind and living authentically. I want to send you a small message. Human life is as short as a dream. If you constantly worry about the opinions and words of others, you will miss out on countless opportunities to live fully for yourself. Remember, a wise person is not one who receives much praise, but one who maintains peace amidst all praise and criticism. Live like a flower that blooms in its season, emitting its own pure fragrance, and do not let any wind carry away that value. Have you ever sat alone in a quiet room, looked out the window, and wondered where true happiness lies? Is happiness having a lot of money, or fame, status, being cheered and praised by others? But have you noticed? Some people are so wealthy, they lack nothing. Every day, they eat delicious food, wear beautiful clothes, drive luxury cars, and live in mansions. But deep down, they still feel empty and restless, as if they can't find lasting joy. Then there are ordinary people, even poor ones, who wake up to just a bowl of white rice with a few boiled vegetables. Yet, they smile brightly, feel life is light. Their hearts are at peace, and their eyes are bright. So, where is happiness, after all? The answer is so simple that we often overlook it. Happiness doesn't come from outside, but from the tranquility and self-sufficiency of our own minds. The Buddha once taught, When the mind is at peace, things are at peace. When the mind is disturbed, things are disturbed. A person with a peaceful mind can maintain a smile even in adversity. A restless mind, even amidst luxury, remains troubled and never feels content. Try to recall a morning when you woke up. The sky was clear blue. Birds sang outside the window. Nothing grand. But you suddenly felt life was light, took a deep breath, and felt grateful to be alive. That very moment is happiness. The Buddha once reminded us, every breath is a gift. Every new morning is a new opportunity. Yet we often forget, constantly chasing something distant, believing that having this or that will bring happiness. But happiness is not out there. Happiness is in the heart that knows how to stop, to recognize what it already has. The ancient story of Zhuge Liang is perhaps familiar to everyone, but each retelling still moves our hearts. In those days, when Sima Yi's army fiercely attacked, Zhuge Liang's situation was extremely critical. The troops in the city were few, and the fortress was empty. Everyone was terrified. But Zhuge Liang showed no panic. He calmly sat on the city wall, burning incense and playing his zither. His serene music and peaceful countenance made the enemy suspicious. They thought there must be an ambush inside the city and dared not advance, eventually retreating. If, in that moment, Zhuge Liang had panicked and been agitated, the entire city might have fallen. But it was the stillness in his mind, the calmness of his inner strength, that allowed him to diffuse a dangerous crisis. The lesson from that story is profound. True strength doesn't come from external swords and spears, but from a steadfast inner self. Likewise, true happiness is not bestowed by others, but comes from the serenity within each of us. Have you noticed that when we care too much about what others think or say, we easily lose inner peace? Just one word of criticism, one scornful look, can make us sad all day. But if we understand that happiness comes from within, we will not be dependent on the gazes and words of others. A serene person can smile at both praise and criticism, because they know that praise doesn't increase their value, and criticism doesn't diminish it. The true value of human life does not lie in public opinion, but in an independent inner self. When you live according to conditions, maintaining a calm mind, you have touched the essence of happiness. As I have repeatedly reminded you, live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. Happiness is the same. It only blossoms when we know how to live according to conditions, how to let go of attachments to external circumstances. Try to think about the days you were stressed, anxious, chasing after so many things, trying to please everyone. By evening, you were exhausted, collapsing onto the bed without feeling any joy. At that time, you had more things, but your heart felt empty. Conversely, there are evenings when you sit drinking a hot cup of tea, watching the sun set, doing nothing at all, and yet your heart feels peaceful. That is the difference between happiness that comes from outside and happiness that comes from within. The outside is just a fleeting breeze, while the inside is the lasting root. For happiness to blossom from within, we need to learn to return to ourselves. The Buddha taught the path of mindfulness, which means living in each present moment, being clearly aware of how we are breathing, walking, living. You can start with a very simple exercise. Every morning when you wake up, Instead of hastily reaching for your phone, sit still for a few minutes. Place your hand on your chest. Take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. Then smile and quietly say, "I am alive. I still have the opportunity to love." Try doing this for a few days, and you will feel much lighter. That is the gift of returning to your own breath. Happiness is not something far away. It lies right within that peaceful rhythm of breathing. Another exercise you can practice is keeping a gratitude journal. Every evening before bed, write down 3 small things you felt grateful for that day. It could be a family meal, a child's smile, or simply the fact that you are still healthy. When you write them down, your mind focuses on the positive. You nurture the seeds of happiness in your heart. A grateful person has a peaceful mind, and a peaceful mind naturally blossoms with happiness. The Buddha once taught that knowing contentment is the greatest happiness. A person who knows how to stop, how to see the beauty in ordinary things, has entered the gate of happiness. There is one important thing I want you to remember. No one can live your life for you. Your happiness cannot be bestowed by others. They can give you temporary joy, but only you can create lasting peace. Just like Zhuge Liang in ancient times, it was not someone bringing troops to help him, but his inner serenity that saved the entire city. Your life is the same. If you don't build a strong inner self, no one can replace you to live a happy life. I want to invite you to try a small practice right now. Stop for a moment. Close your eyes, relax your shoulders, relax your hands, breathe in deeply, and breathe out gently. When you breathe in, whisper to yourself, "I am alive." When you breathe out, whisper, "I feel peaceful." Just 3 breaths like that, and you will feel your heart calm, lighter, less stressed, and you will realize that happiness has never left you. It is still right here in every breath, in the heart that knows how to abide. Tomorrow, when you open your eyes to greet the new day, please remember this message. Every breath is a gift. Every new morning is a new opportunity. Don't let your life drift away in regret and worry. Learn to return, learn to abide, to find true happiness within yourself. I believe that when you do that, no matter how many storms life throws at you, you will remain steadfast. You will still smile. Because you have found the safest refuge, your serene soul. Sometimes in life, we feel that we suffer many disadvantages, many heart wounds, because of things others have caused. Someone may have hurt us, sown sadness in us, left scars on our hearts. Sometimes, even the closest and most intimate people cause us disappointment. We find it hard to forgive, hard to let go. But then, on a quiet evening, when sitting alone and reflecting, we suddenly ask ourselves, if I hold on to anger in my heart, will it truly make me more serene? Or will it only cause me more suffering? And it is at that moment that we realize that forgiveness is not a favor we bestow on others, but an opening of our heart to liberate ourselves. Forgiveness is a gift we give to our own soul, to find peace and tranquility. The Buddha once taught that hatred cannot be extinguished by hatred. Only love can extinguish hatred. That is an eternal law. When our hearts are filled with resentment, we are like someone holding a hot coal. That coal doesn't burn anyone else. It only burns our own hand. Others make mistakes. Others hurt us. That is their karma. But if we cling to resentment, it becomes our karma. Therefore, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting everything, but choosing not to let the past bind the present, choosing not to let sourness prolong into suffering. Living in this life, one of the greatest good deeds is gratitude. Gratitude to parents for giving birth and raising us. Gratitude to those who helped us, even just once. Gratitude even for adversities that taught us lessons of growth. A grateful person will find life more beautiful, brighter, even in seemingly dead-end moments. A person living with a grateful heart is never poor, because they are always rich in affection, in appreciation, in the light of peace. Gratitude transforms suffering into light, turns challenges into opportunities, and loss into growth. There's a story almost everyone has heard, the story of Mencius and his mother. Long ago, when Mencius was young, his family lived near a cemetery. Every day, the boy saw people crying and burying the dead, and he gradually imitated those solemn acts. Mencius's mother, seeing her son like this, worried and decided to move. The second time, she took her son to live near a market. There, every day, Mencius saw trading and haggling, and he also imitated them. His mother again felt this was not good, so she continued to move. The third time, she chose to live near a school. Every day, Mencius saw students being polite, respectful, reading books, and practicing writing, and he imitated those actions. Only then did Mencius's mother breathe a sigh of relief and decide to settle there. Thanks to her compassion and sacrifice, Mencius had a good environment to become a renowned sage in history. This story doesn't just praise a mother's devotion, but also teaches us a lesson about gratitude and forgiveness. If Mencius had only focused on his privations, complaining about his difficult life and blaming his mother for having to move so many times, he might never have developed such filial piety and profound wisdom. But it was through gratitude to his mother, and even gratitude for the difficulties, that Mencius became great. Thus, gratitude is always the soil that nurtures character. A person whose heart is full of gratitude will have the strength to overcome adversity. In reality, many people still blame their parents for not providing them with a full life, for not caring for them as much as others. Sometimes we even resent a harsh word, an action that hurt us. But if we look back, our parents sacrificed their youth, their strength, even their unrealized dreams for us. How many drops of sweat fell? How many calluses on their hands? All were for us to become good people. If we keep blaming, we will only see shortcomings. But if we open our hearts to gratitude, we will see how boundless their love is. Forgiving others is like being grateful to our parents, because both help our hearts feel lighter. Some say, I can't forgive them because they hurt me too much. But try to think, if we keep carrying that burden in our hearts, we ourselves will be the ones who suffer the most. Forgiveness doesn't mean we condone the wrong action, but that we don't let that action continue to hurt us. When we forgive, we stop the whirlpool of suffering. We open a new door for our soul. The Buddha taught that a grateful mind is the foundation of all virtues. A grateful person will know how to love, how to let go, how to see life with eyes of compassion. A person who nurtures a grateful mind will not be easily swept into anger. A person who practices forgiveness will no longer be bound by the currents of resentment. When we practice living with gratitude and forgiveness, we will realize that although this life has many difficulties, it also has countless precious things. So how do we practice gratitude and forgiveness in daily life? Let's start with the smallest things. Every morning when we wake up, we silently say, "Thank you for still seeing the sunlight." When eating a meal, we are grateful for the rice grain, the farmer's sweat, the cook's hands. When someone hurts us, instead of immediately getting angry, we try to take a deep breath and remind ourselves that the other person is also just a suffering being. They only cause us suffering. If we resent, we only pile up more suffering. But if we forgive, both we and they have an opportunity to be relieved. A simple exercise is to keep a gratitude journal. Each day, we take a few minutes to write down 3 things we are grateful for that day. It could be a greeting, a smile, a delicious meal, or a cool breeze. These seemingly small things are the energy source that nourishes the soul. When our heart is filled with gratitude, resentments naturally dissipate. At the same time, let's also try writing down the name of someone we once resented, and then practice forgiving them by wishing them peace. At first, it might be very difficult, but gradually, we will feel our hearts lighten. Another practice is mindful breathing with a grateful heart. When breathing in, we think, "I am grateful for this breath." When breathing out, we think, "I forgive everyone." With each breath, we are watering the seeds of love in our hearts, and these simple practices will bring us closer to peace. I send you a message. Human life is inherently short. Don't let meaningless resentments consume your mind. Live with an attitude of gratitude so that every day is a gift. Practice forgiveness so that your own mind can be liberated. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. Call your parents if you still can. Say thank you to a loved one. Forgive someone you once resented. When we sow the seeds of gratitude and forgiveness, we will reap the fruits of peace in our lives, in daily life. Perhaps all of us have, at some point, fallen into the state of scrutinizing and judging others. Seeing someone wearing ill-fitting clothes, we secretly think, "Why dress like that?" Hearing a neighbor tell an unpleasant story, we immediately conclude, "This person must not be good." After merely seeing their gait, hearing their voice, or witnessing a fleeting action, we hastily label them. These seemingly small actions become a habit, and gradually we become accustomed to living with a critical, judgmental gaze. Yet few realize that these very judgments not only cause suffering to the person being judged, but also make our own souls cramped, rigid, losing their inherent peace. The Buddha once taught that as you sow, so shall you reap. When we utter harsh words, cast scornful glances, or harbor narrow-minded thoughts towards others, those seeds first reside in our own minds. They make our minds muddy, restless, and lacking in compassion. Others may feel momentary sadness from our words, but they will eventually forget. We, however, continue to hold on to that habit of judgment, and thus we ourselves bear the consequences. A person who constantly scrutinizes others is, in fact, chaining their own life, because the more they judge, the easier it is to get angry, to develop envy, and the further they stray from the compassion the Buddha advised us to cultivate. When we focus solely on others' faults, we forget to cultivate ourselves. It's like someone standing before a mirror. Instead of wiping the dirt from their own face, they blame the mirror for reflecting something ugly. Life is inherently impermanent. Everyone has their own suffering, their own path to walk. No one can fully know the root cause, circumstances, or truth behind another's actions. Therefore, judging without clear understanding only creates more negative karma for us. The story of Confucius meeting the woman crying by the grave is a testament to this. One day, Confucius and his disciples were passing through a village. He heard such mournful and sorrowful wailing that the entire group stopped. Upon finding the source, he saw a woman sitting by a grave, weeping bitterly. Confucius approached and kindly inquired, learning that all 3 generations of her family had been devoured by tigers. His disciples, astonished, asked, "Why don't you leave this place and find a safer land to live?" The woman wiped her tears and replied, "Here, though there are fierce tigers, there are no tyrannical rulers. In other places, people are even more terrifying than tigers." Hearing this, Confucius sighed and said, "Tyranny is indeed more terrifying than fierce tigers." The lesson here is profound. We often easily judge when we see others living in suffering, without understanding that they have their own fears and choices. That woman was not unafraid of tigers, but she feared tyranny and injustice more than death itself. If we only look at the surface and accuse her of foolishness, that would be a mistaken judgment. Therefore, instead of hastily offering critical opinions, let us learn to listen, understand, and most importantly, turn inward and look at ourselves. In daily life, we can practice letting go of the habit of judgment through very simple steps. When the mind arises with the thought of criticizing someone, stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, do I truly understand this person's entire story? Just one such question will calm our minds, reducing hastiness and narrow-mindedness. Every evening, you can write a short line in a journal. Today, I judged something, and can I let it go? Write it down, then close the journal, as if you've put the burden down. This practice, though small, little by little, each day, will help us cultivate compassion and a peaceful mind. Another practice the Buddha advised is contemplation of cause and effect, karma. Remember that when we utter words of judgment, we are planting seeds of suffering in our own minds. Conversely, when we offer praise or a compassionate look, we sow seeds of happiness. Live according to conditions. The more we cling to criticism, the more we harm ourselves. Life is already full of troubles, so why would we take on the extra burden of judgment and inflict suffering upon ourselves? A person who practices diligently will choose to see everything with compassionate eyes. Seeing someone angry instead of criticizing, we understand that they are being consumed by suffering. Seeing someone make a mistake instead of criticizing, we can awaken a feeling of pity. Perhaps they are walking in darkness, not yet seeing the light of the Dharma. Seeing someone succeed instead of being envious, we can smile and offer blessings, wishing them lasting happiness. These small transformations will open our souls and make our lives lighter. And my friend, try to dedicate one day to not judging anyone, not scrutinizing anything. Just live with yourself, paying attention to each breath each step, each small gesture, and you will feel an unusual lightness. At that moment, you will truly understand that peace does not lie in controlling others, but in the freedom of your own soul. Today, before concluding, I want you to try something very simple. Call a loved one. It could be your parents or a sibling. And instead of judging them as you might habitually do, express a word of thanks, a word of love. Or you can sit quietly for 5 minutes, breathing in and out, and whisper in your heart, "May I know how to see people with compassionate eyes. May I know how to let go of judgment." You will feel a new energy spreading within you, light and warm. Life is too short to live with criticism and judgment. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. Choose compassion, empathy, and peace for yourself, so that each day that passes is a meaningful day. A day when our soul is not obscured by the burden of scrutiny, dimming the beauty of life. And I wish you, on your journey today, to find for yourself ease and lightness so that you can smile and move forward on the path of life. Have you ever wondered why some people, when they appear, don't need to speak much or act superior, yet they immediately inspire respect and trust? They don't use money to buy trust, nor do they need power to compel obedience, but simply through their integrity, purity, and sincerity. Being near them, we feel a sense of safety, a clarity that also brings peace to our own hearts. That is the power of a pure soul, a heart unclouded by schemes and calculations. In today's busy life, when everyone is increasingly preoccupied with work, chasing benefits, and competing over every little thing, an honest heart becomes an invaluable rarity, like a cool breeze blowing through a scorching summer noon. A person with a pure mind is not someone unaware of temptations or personal gain, but precisely someone who knows all these things yet still chooses to live sincerely, choosing the path of integrity, because they understand that only purity brings lasting trust. The Buddha once taught that a pure mind is the source of happiness. When our mind is not attached to greed, anger, or delusion, we naturally live lightly, without having to calculate too much. It's like clear water. Even if someone throws sand and stones into it, just wait for it to settle and the water becomes clear again. A person with a pure mind is also like this. They can face life's storms, external criticisms, but then everything will dissipate, leaving only the clarity within their soul. In life, we may not be richer or more powerful than anyone else, but if we maintain purity, we possess an invaluable asset, inner peace and respect from others. In daily life, we often witness situations where clever, scheming people may achieve immediate benefits or win a small dispute. But in the long run, those calculations never bring happiness. Because when we sow seeds of dishonesty, we will reap distrust. Others may fear us, but will never trust us. Others may respect us, but will never cherish us. Trust and love cannot be bought with money or power, but only come from sincerity. This is also why, in all cultures, examples of integrity and honesty are always praised and remembered by people. Perhaps no one among us is unfamiliar with the name Bao Zheng, Bao Gong. He was an official famous for his integrity and impartial judgments during the Northern Song dynasty in China. People remember Bao Gong not just because he was skilled at rendering judgments, but because he dared to maintain honesty, without favoritism, unswayed by power or money. There were cases where the culprits were relatives of the emperor, yet Bao Gong upheld justice, bravely delivering his verdicts, earning the respect of both the court and the common people. It was precisely because of this purity that his name has been passed down for hundreds of years, becoming a legend. The people trusted him, criminals feared him, and his integrity became a symbol of justice. The lesson from Bao Gong is that you don't need tricks, you don't need to hide. Just an honest heart gives you the power to move all people. If we look at life today, somewhere around us, there are still silent Bao Gongs. That could be a leader who dares to speak the truth, protecting employees even when facing difficulties. It could be a poor mother who is determined not to let her children be dishonest, even for a small sum. It could be a student who dares to return money found instead of keeping it for themselves. These seemingly small actions radiate a clear light that moves others and makes them believe more in life, because integrity has the power to heal. It shows us that amidst so much complexity, there are still pure hearts. In reality, when we live with integrity, not only do others benefit, but we ourselves are liberated. A dishonest person must always fear being discovered, must worry about hiding things, must think about how to cope. But a pure person has nothing to worry about. Their mind is like a clear sky. There may be clouds passing by, but they never fear the clouds will eternally cover it. Living purely, we sleep peacefully, eat well, and face everyone with confidence because we have nothing to hide. That is the greatest freedom. The ancients had a saying, "A straight tree does not fear dying standing." When we choose integrity, even if we encounter difficulties, we walk with our heads held high. However, maintaining a pure mind is not always easy. Temptations are all around us. Sometimes, just a small lie to get by seems to bring immediate relief. But that is a crack that can bring down an entire house of trust. Sometimes, just to please someone, we are willing to bend the truth, but then our hearts feel heavy. Therefore, the Buddha always reminded us to cultivate mindfulness so that every word and action originates from a sincere heart. That sincere heart is the root to create blessings and trust. If you are listening to this, perhaps you have also faced such choices. Sometimes you have to decide between speaking the truth and remaining silent to protect yourself. Sometimes you have to choose between honesty and dishonesty to achieve gain. Remember that what dishonesty brings is only temporary, while what purity brings will be eternal. The trust a person has placed in you is the most precious gift. And to have that gift, you only need to keep your mind pure and sincere. To cultivate purity in your soul, you can start with the smallest things. Every day, practice speaking the truth, even if it's just simple things. If you are wrong, admit your mistake instead of trying to hide it. If you make a promise, try your best to keep it, even if it's the smallest thing. Each time you are honest, you are planting a good seed in your mind. Gradually, that seed will sprout into a habit, allowing you to live naturally with integrity without effort. Additionally, you can try keeping an honesty journal. Every evening before bed, record in your notebook. One thing you did with integrity that day. It could be returning change to a cashier or telling the truth when you made a mistake. When you look back at those journal entries, you will see yourself walking on a brighter path each day. Another exercise you can apply is mindful breathing. When you sit still, breathing in and out gently, remind yourself that your mind is as clear as the sky. Each breath is like a breeze sweeping away the dust in your heart. You will feel lighter and clearer. If possible, smile and send this intention to your loved ones, wishing them also to live with a pure mind. In this way, you not only nurture your own mind, but also sow a benevolent breeze into life. When you live purely, others will gradually sense it. You don't need to prove anything. Don't need to say much. The light from your soul will radiate naturally, like a flower emitting fragrance without needing an invitation. Others will seek you out, trust you, because they know that you possess a clear energy. And that very thing will become the motivation for you to live, to overcome all difficulties without fear. A pure mind is not just a virtue, but also a source of strength that allows you to stand firm amidst life's challenges. My dear friend, try to look at yourself right now. Are you living with sincerity and honesty? Are you allowing your heart to be clouded by petty calculations? If so, don't be sad. Don't blame yourself. See it as an opportunity to renew your soul. From today, you can start with small steps, but surely, if you keep a flame of purity in your heart, your entire life will shine brighter than any light. I want to send you a message. This life may have many difficulties, many temptations, but don't forget that you already possess the greatest treasure, your soul. Keep it pure like a precious gem. Then, from that gem, light will shine forth, illuminating your path and that of your loved ones. May you always live with integrity so that every day is filled with faith. May your soul always be peaceful and radiant. Our daily life is like a long journey. Along that path, sometimes we carry in our backpack very light things, like a small joy, a smile, or a beautiful memory. But sometimes we load it with all sorts of heavy things: anger, disappointment, hurtful words from someone, even a painful memory that has lasted for years. We keep embracing it all, walking on and on until our shoulders ache, and we ourselves don't know why we suffer so much. Sometimes, an unintentional word from someone spoken long ago we still haven't let go of. We keep thinking about it. And the more we think, the more insulted we feel, the more unjust it seems. Other times, it's a loss, something that didn't go as desired, and we keep holding it in our hearts and lament. If only I had done things differently that day, perhaps my life would be different now. It is this habit of clinging tightly and refusing to let go that makes our lives heavier than ever before. The Buddha once taught that in life there are things we must accept, things we must change, and things we must definitely let go of. These are the three keys that unlock happiness. Accept, so the mind does not resist what cannot be changed. Change to transform what is within our capability. And let go to free ourselves from unnecessary attachments. If we cling to everything and refuse to let go, it's like someone holding a large bundle of firewood and still wanting to pick up more. Eventually, they will not have enough strength to continue. Try to imagine a very familiar situation. One morning, You arrive at work and hear someone speaking ill of you. You feel annoyed, your heart agitated. All that day, you have no mind to work. You go home and snap at your spouse or parents, then blame yourself for not keeping calm. So what truly made you suffer? Was it the other person's words, or the fact that you held on to them in your heart? If you had known how to let go from the beginning, treating it as just a fleeting breeze, the pain would not have lasted all day. A very famous story in Buddhism can help us deeply grasp the value of letting go. Long ago, two monks were traveling through a forest together. When they reached a riverbank, they encountered a young woman who was distraught, unable to cross the swift current. She looked at the two monks and pleaded for help. One of the monks immediately stepped forward, carried the woman in his arms, and brought her to the other side. Afterward, both monks continued their journey. After walking quite a distance, the other monk finally spoke, criticizing his friend. "We are spiritual practitioners. How could you dare to carry a woman like that? That is not allowed." The first monk smiled gently and replied, "I put her down on the riverbank long ago. Why are you still carrying her in your heart until now?" Hearing this, everyone suddenly paused. Often, the things that cause us suffering are not the events themselves, but the fact that we hold on to them in our hearts. The monk let go immediately after the action was done, while his friend still carried the concern, allowing it to weigh him down throughout the entire journey. We are the same in daily life. Sometimes, a trivial matter, a fleeting encounter we remember, resent, and blame endlessly. Others may have long forgotten, but we refuse to let go. Thus, we chain ourselves to pain, making our minds restless. Letting go does not mean being indifferent or irresponsible. Letting go means daring to put down the burden to walk more freely. It's like walking on a road. If your hands carry a heavy bag of sand, every step is tiring. But if you stop and put the bag down, you will immediately feel lighter. That bag of sand is unnecessary anger, resentment, and worries. In life, the 3 keys to happiness that the Buddha mentioned can be applied at all times and places. When facing something that cannot be changed, learn to accept it. For example, a sudden rain shower wets your clothes. Even if you get angry, you can't stop the rain. Instead of blaming the sky, smile and see it as an opportunity to experience nature. When facing something within your capabilities, change it. For instance, if your health is poor, exercise and eat moderately, instead of complaining about your fate. And when you realize that some things only weigh down your heart, let them go. Because holding on to them only causes you suffering. The story of the 2 monks by the river has existed for hundreds of years, but still carries profound value for each of us today. This is because, in modern life, full of pressure, we tend even more to cling to things that are not worth it. A negative comment on social media, a rejection at work, a small misunderstanding in the family, all can become heavy stones if we don't know how to put them down. To learn to let go, we need to practice daily. A simple way is to start with the breath. When feeling restless due to an event, sit still, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and exhale slowly. During that time, whisper to yourself, "I am letting go. I will not let this anger control me." Just a few breaths, and you will feel lighter. Another way is to keep a letting go journal. Take pen and paper and write down everything that is weighing you down. Write it all out, then fold it and set it aside. When you look back, you will see that many things are truly no longer important. Another method is contemplating a flower. Gaze at a flower, feel its fragility and brevity. To understand that everything is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. When we understand impermanence, it is easier to let go. If today you are angry at someone, try calling them, saying a word of forgiveness, or simply letting go silently in your mind. If you are regretting the past, focus on the present moment, for that is what you truly have. If you are worrying about the future, remember that it has not yet arrived. Worrying only makes you lose the peace of today. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. This saying needs to be repeated within each of us. All things come and go like flowing water. If we try to hold on to a stream of water in our hands forever, it will only dry up. True happiness comes when we know how to put things down, know how to smile, know how to tell ourselves, everything has passed. I choose peace. So, from this moment, try a small exercise. Immediately after hearing this, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, exhale slowly, and whisper to yourself, I am ready to let go. Then, call your parents to express gratitude or write a thank you note to someone you love. These small actions are the first steps to liberating the mind. Responsive Buddhist Dharma wishes you a lighter journey. Don't cling to old things. Don't let resentments make you lose the joy of living. Accept what cannot be changed. Be brave to change what can be changed, and let go of what is not worth holding on to. Then, you will find your life more open, peaceful, and much happier. I wish you a peaceful day, a serene soul, and may you always walk lightly in this life. Some afternoons, we sit alone, silently reflecting on the path we've traveled, and realize that most of our lives have been heavily reliant on others. From childhood, we hoped for our parents' protection. As we grew, we depended on teachers and friends. As adults, many place all their faith in their partners, colleagues, and society. Some even believe that just having money and fame will eliminate all worries and anxieties in life. But reality shows that no amount of money can maintain a healthy body, and no level of fame can replace inner peace. Life is inherently full of undercurrents, and no one can swim through the turbulent waters for us. If we remain dependent, we will only live in fear of loss. But if we learn to stand firm on our own 2 feet, then we will truly be free and resilient. The Buddha once taught, "Be a lamp unto yourself." These short words contain a profound philosophy of life. It means that no one can walk the path of liberation, the path of peace for us. No matter how much our parents love us, they can only guide us for a part of the way. The rest is up to us to be strong. No matter how attentive our teachers are, they only impart knowledge. Whether we apply it or not is our decision. Even the Buddha himself did not grant favors or blessings, but merely showed the way. Whether a practitioner attains enlightenment or not, whether people find peace or not, it all depends on their own efforts. That is the independence that Buddhism wants each of us to cultivate. As long as we are dependent, we will easily be swept away by external changes. For example, Some people think that only if their spouse, children, and family are harmonious will they be happy. But I ask, if one day fate intervenes and that person leaves them, will they still be able to stand up? Some people live their whole lives relying on money, considering money their support. But when illness strikes, no amount of money can buy a good night's sleep. Some cling to fame and power, but power comes and goes. People honor them, then forget them. What truly lasts? The more we cling, the more dependent we become, the more easily we collapse when those supports disappear. Because life is impermanent. Everything changes. If our inner self is not strong enough, not independent enough, then nothing external can save us. There's a story in military strategy about Wu Qi. He was a brilliant general during the Warring States period, known for his strictness and wisdom. Once, while training his soldiers, he taught that in battle, one cannot rely solely on the king or general. Each soldier must learn to stand firm on their own. Because when gunfire erupts, the king cannot be beside every soldier, nor can the general protect every individual. Only when each person is independent and resilient will the army truly be strong. The soldiers heard this and took it to heart, and thanks to this, they later became valiant warriors who did not flinch before the enemy. That story is like a mirror reflecting our own lives. Life is also like going to war. If we constantly wait for others to carry our burdens and protect us, we will sooner or later be defeated. Only when we know how to stand firm and keep our minds resolute can we complete the journey. Imagine someone walking on a tightrope in midair. If that person only looks down, waiting for others to help them balance, they will surely fall. But if they trust in themselves, taking steady steps, focusing on their breath, and keeping their minds undisturbed, then they can overcome it. Life is the same. Others can advise and support us, but ultimately, we still have to walk our own path. And it is this independence that brings true freedom. In Buddhist teachings, there is a crucial point. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. If we are dependent, it means we are stubbornly clinging to the idea that someone or something outside of us will bring us peace. But conditions come and go. Nothing can be held on to forever. If we know how to live according to conditions, how to stand firm on our own, we will not fear loss, nor worry about being abandoned, because we will have found our source of strength from within. That is a resilient mind, an inner lamp that illuminates our soul without relying on anyone. There are mothers who sacrifice their whole lives for their children, hoping their children will be their support. But as they grow old, their children may become busy with their own families, and the mother feels empty and lonely. At that moment, if the mother understands that happiness does not depend on her children, but on her own mind, she will find joy herself, perhaps from a cup of tea, from a scripture, from the innocent smile of a neighbor's child. Conversely, if she only waits for her children to be happy, for her children to live, then she is tying herself to suffering. A resilient person knows how to love, but does not place their entire happiness in others. That is the self-reliance that everyone needs to learn. So how do we practice that spirit of independence in daily life? First, start by recognizing your own dependencies. Have you ever felt uneasy if no one texted you for a day? Have you ever felt disappointed when a plan, a project, or a relationship didn't go as desired? If so, try to stop, take a deep breath, and tell yourself, my happiness does not entirely lie in the hands of others, but in how I perceive things. The next step, you can try keeping a letting go journal. Every evening, write down the things you managed to do by yourself that day. No need for anyone's help. It could just be cooking a meal, tidying your room, or completing a small task. Each line will remind you that you can stand on your own. You are completely capable. Additionally, practicing mindful breathing is an excellent way to train your inner strength. When you breathe in, know that you are breathing in. When you breathe out, know that you are breathing out. Feel each breath as a current that helps you stand firm in the present. In that breath, there is no dependency, no clinging, only life manifesting. Just spend 5 to 10 minutes each day doing this, and you will find your mind gradually becoming steadfast, not easily swayed by storms. And if possible, practice contemplating a flower. A flower blooms on its own, emits its own fragrance, needing no one to be beautiful. A flower does not compare, does not hope. It just blooms fully in every moment. Humans are the same. If we know how to live like a flower, how to blossom with our inner strength, then we will no longer worry when someone leaves us or when circumstances change, because we are already complete within ourselves. Today, if you feel that you are still dependent on someone or something, try to stop and ask, if everything disappears, what will I have left? The answer may make you feel wobbly, but it is precisely then that you realize that only a resilient mind, your own independence, is the true support. Money can be lost, fame can fade, but inner strength cannot be taken away by anyone. My dear friend, no one can live our lives for us. Others can accompany us, but they cannot bear our pain, nor can they experience our happiness for us. So, learn to stand firm on your own 2 feet. When you know how to stand firm, you will no longer fear loneliness, no longer tremble before storms. You will see yourself like a steadfast mountain against a tempest, like a sail that knows how to turn to navigate the open sea. And in that independence, you will find joy, freedom, and peace. Today, I hope you can take a moment to call your parents and tell them you are fine, that you can take care of yourself. Write a thank you note to someone who has helped you, but at the same time, remind yourself that from now on, you will stand firmer. And before going to bed, take a deep breath, smile, and believe that you are strong enough to overcome all of life's challenges. May you always be resilient, always peaceful, and always remember, live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. In daily life, surely all of us have at some point wondered what truly makes people happy. Some believe it's money. Others say it's fame, power, or a well-furnished home. But if we look closely, we will see that all these things are ultimately temporary. No matter how grand a house is, it will be empty without the loving sound of laughter. Bank accounts may be full, but if the heart is lonely, joy will not be complete. Ultimately, humans live and rely on each other through something far more precious: love. But the love here is not conditional affection, not love for personal gain, not giving to expect something in return, but disinterested, selfless love. The kind of love that brings peace to the souls of both the giver and the receiver. The Buddha once taught that compassion is the wellspring of true happiness. Compassion is not merely pity, but also an openness of the soul, willing to embrace the suffering of others as our own. When we open our hearts to love, without seeking fame, profit, or expecting reciprocation, at that moment, we touch the purest beauty of humanity. Yet in today's busy life, we often forget this. We are easily caught in the whirlpool of making a living, easily annoyed by trivial encounters, easily prioritizing our ego and personal interests over human connection. And then, when we look back, we realize our hearts are empty due to the lack of true love. Try to imagine a late weekend afternoon. After stressful hours of work, you return home. In the small kitchen, a loved one prepares a simple meal for you. No fancy delicacies, just vegetable soup, a dish of braised eggplant, and a hot bowl of white rice. Yet you feel warmth in your heart because you sense the love put into each dish. That is selfless love, not seeking repayment, only wishing for the person you love to be full and peaceful. That is a small piece of true happiness. True love is never associated with possession. When we love someone only so they stay by our side, so they do what we want, so we feel comfortable, then that is no longer love, but merely selfishness disguised as affection. Disinterested love, however, is different. It does not imprison anyone. On the contrary, it gives the other person freedom and peace. It does not demand recognition or expect reciprocation. When we love in this way, our hearts open, lighten, no longer burdened by calculations. In history, there are timeless examples of noble character because they demonstrated selfless love and extraordinary purity. One such example is the famous story of Guan Yu during the Three Kingdoms period. After Liu Bei's defeat, his two wives fell into Cao Cao's hands. Guan Yu, at that time, was forced to surrender under dire circumstances. Yet, even in this perilous situation, he remained loyal and righteous, upholding human morality. What later generations remember him for is not only his unparalleled martial prowess, but also his pure character, when he escorted the two wives through many dangers to return to Liu Bei. Throughout that journey, Guan Yu had every opportunity to fall, to take advantage of the situation and develop ill intentions. But he absolutely did not. He always maintained propriety, treating the two wives as his sisters-in-law, wholeheartedly protecting and shielding them. On the road, he often positioned himself to block dangers, guarding them at night, enduring all risks so that the two wives could be safe. People praised him not only for his loyalty, but also for his character, for that selfless and pure love. This is what made him a timeless example for generations. This story reminds us of an important truth. In life, there are many relationships, but if they lack purity, lack true love, all relationships can easily crumble. People may come together for mutual benefit, but they will also drift apart when that benefit is no longer there. Only selfless Disinterested love can be lasting, can bring peace. When we love someone with an unattached heart, without expectation, then both parties are free. Both feel a sense of security. In Buddhist teachings, that love is compassion. The Buddha taught that just as a mother loves her only child with her entire life, so too should we cultivate boundless loving kindness towards all sentient beings. That is a reminder to open our hearts, not just to love familiar people, but also to feel compassion and share with all. Because only when we know how to love broadly will the world around us truly be peaceful. A woman once recounted, "For many years, I lived in resentment. I blamed my relatives for not caring about me, blamed my friends for being inconsiderate, blamed life for being unfair. The more I blamed, the lonelier I became." One day, during a meditation retreat, she heard a teacher speak about compassion. The teacher said, "When you wait for others to love you, you will always suffer. But when you start to love others, you immediately find happiness." That saying struck her mind like a hammer. From then on, she began to see life with different eyes. Instead of blaming, she began to listen, began to care. She called her parents, cooked a meal for her husband, smiled at her neighbors. And surprisingly, happiness gradually filled her heart. She realized that the true value of love is not in being loved, but in knowing how to love. If you are listening to these words, the Responsive Buddhist Dharma channel hopes you will try to practice this once. Dedicate a few minutes each day to selfless love. You can start by writing a thank you note in your journal each evening for someone you encountered that day. It could be thanking a cashier who smiled at you, thanking a colleague who shared work, thanking a loved one for listening. Or you can try the mindful breathing exercise. Sit still, breathe in, and think, "I send loving energy to myself." Breathe out and think, "I send loving energy to everyone." Just 5 minutes like that, and you will feel your mind lighter. Another way, you can contemplate a flower. When you look at a flower, you realize that it is beautiful, not because it holds its fragrance and color for itself, but because it radiates fragrance for all. Anyone who passes by can enjoy it. Humans are the same. When we open our hearts to selfless love, we are like a flower, emitting fragrance for life. Others may receive it, or they may not. But we remain peaceful because we have lived fully with our hearts. You know, human life is incredibly short. If we constantly live to compete, to calculate, to only love conditionally, then ultimately we only reap exhaustion. But if one day we know how to love someone with complete purity and selflessness, then that day we have lived a life truly worth living. That selfless love not only brings joy to others, but is also a gift to ourselves. Because when the heart opens, we feel our minds at peace. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. This saying always holds true. When we love someone and cling, demanding reciprocation, we will suffer. But when we love someone according to conditions, with an open heart, we will be happy. That is the door to a serene world. And you should try it today. Make a phone call to your parents, not to report, not to complain, but just to say, "I love you, Mom and Dad." Write a thank you note to a friend, a colleague, a neighbor. Stop for a few minutes, breathe, and send loving energy to yourself and to everyone. These small things will gradually nurture your heart, making it warmer and steadier. In this life, no one can live for another, but everyone can give each other selfless love. And it is through that love that we can walk steadily amidst life's many storms. I hope that as I conclude this sharing, you will feel the flame of love lighting up in your heart. Cherish it, nurture it every day, so that every morning you wake up, you can smile and say, "Today I live with love." Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you poured all your heart and effort into holding on to something, but the harder you tried, the more exhausted you became, and the more you forced it, the more you suffered? Perhaps it was a relationship where you knew the feelings were gone, but you couldn't bear to let go. Perhaps it was where you knew you no longer fit, but you clung to it for fear of public ridicule. Or perhaps it was expectations you placed on your children, hoping they would live exactly as you wished, only to feel deeply disappointed when things went awry. Humans are often like this. We think that the tighter we grasp, the more we can hold on. But some things, the tighter you hold them, the more they slip from your grasp. Life is inherently not entirely within our control, and the more we resist impermanence, the more restless we become. The Buddha once taught that all conditions come and go. Just go with the flow, and your mind will be at peace. A short teaching, yet it contains an ocean of wisdom. When conditions arise, we welcome them. When conditions pass, we let go. Forcing something that doesn't belong to us is like holding a hot coal. The tighter we hold, the more we burn ourselves. A person who knows how to live according to conditions is not someone who gives up and ignores everything, but someone with enough wisdom to understand that there are things we do with all our heart. But the outcome depends on circumstances. When conditions converge, flowers bloom. When conditions dissipate, leaves fall. It's all just the natural order of things. In Zen history, there is a famous story about Zen master Baizhang and the fox. One day, after a Dharma talk, everyone had left except an old man who lingered. The old man approached Baizhang and said, "I was once a Zen master, living on this mountain, long ago." During a lecture, someone asked him, "Does a great practitioner still fall into cause and effect?" He mistakenly answered, "Does not fall into cause and effect." Because of this clinging answer, he was condemned to be reborn as a fox for 500 lifetimes. Now, having heard Baizhang's Dharma, he hopes to be enlightened. Baizhang listened and immediately said, "A great practitioner is not deluded by cause and effect." With just that one sentence, the old man suddenly awakened, was freed from his fox form, and his consciousness was liberated. That story reminds us that simply due to an attachment, due to a mistaken notion, a Zen master had to wander in an animal body for hundreds of lifetimes. The root of suffering is clinging and forcing. Once we dare to let go of attachment and go with the flow of conditions, the door to liberation immediately opens. Similarly, in life today, sometimes we cling to a pain, a loss, a betrayal. But the tighter we hold on, the more we torment ourselves. Only when we let go can we find ease and serenity. Try to imagine holding a rose tightly. At first, it smells fragrant and beautiful, but the longer you hold it, the more the thorns will prick your hand, causing bleeding and pain. If you let go, the wound will gradually heal, and the flower will continue to bloom according to its own conditions. Life is the same. Not everything we like will belong to us forever. A person who knows how to live according to conditions is someone who cherishes what is present and knows how to let go of what has passed. A sister recounted that she suffered for many years simply because her husband left her for another woman. She tormented herself, blamed life, blamed fate. Each time she remembered, tears streamed down her face. But then one time, she went to a pagoda and heard the Dharma, hearing the master teach that all conditions come and go, and forcing them only brings more suffering. That day she burst into tears, but after the tears came the relief of letting go. She realized that her husband's departure meant their conditions had ended. She still had aging parents, children, and herself to care for. From that day on, she began to live more lightly, no longer tormenting herself, no longer blaming. And she recounted that from that moment, her mind became unusually peaceful, and her health gradually recovered. All of us will eventually have to face impermanence. Loved ones may leave, jobs may be lost, health may decline. But if we know that everything is just the coming together and parting of conditions, we will no longer be overly mournful. A person who knows how to live according to conditions is someone who takes care of their mind, so that amidst storms, they can still maintain peace. Like a river, even if the water flows swiftly, the riverbed remains still. That stillness is not due to the absence of waves, but due to knowing how to accept and flow through the waves. If you are tired of holding on to something, I invite you to try a small exercise. Sit down in a quiet place, close your eyes, place your hand on your chest, and breathe very slowly. When you breathe in, whisper in your mind, "I know I am breathing in." When you breathe out, whisper, "I let go." You can do this for a few minutes each day, or you can write down on paper the thing that is weighing on your heart the most. Then read it once and tear the paper into small pieces. That is a way to remind yourself that it is time to let go. Letting go does not mean no longer caring, but no longer suffering because of it. Letting go does not mean failure, but stepping into a new phase. Letting go also does not mean forgetting, but remembering without pain. When our mind is light, everything around us also becomes brighter. We will see the sunrise as more beautiful, see children's smiles as more innocent, see a flower by the roadside as containing a whole world of love. Today, I want to tell you that live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. If you are sad because someone doesn't understand you, let the wind carry it away. If you are tired because your work is not as you wish, see it as a lesson for you to grow. If you are regretting a past that is gone, remember that tomorrow is still waiting. Treat yourself to a moment of stillness. After hearing these words, take a deep breath and smile. Think of a loved one you cherish and silently send them a blessing. Simply doing that, you have already sown a seed of peace in your heart. I pray that from today, you will diminish attachment, diminish clinging, and add more serenity. I hope that when conditions arise, you smile and accept them. When conditions pass, you also smile and bid them farewell. And I hope that no matter how many changes life brings, your mind remains like a clear, still autumn lake. Because no one can live your life for you. Only you can decide the peace in your heart. Have you ever noticed that some mornings we wake up, see the sunlight filtering through the window, hear birds singing in the garden, but our minds are heavy with yesterday's unresolved worries, or with the fears that tomorrow might bring? Many of us live our entire lives worrying about the past and the future, forgetting the most precious thing, this present moment, the moment that is right before our eyes. Many people carry regrets about yesterday's mistakes, bringing sadness, anger, and unfulfilled desires into the new day. But have you ever asked yourself, if today were the last day you had to live, how would you use it? Would you continue to carry those sufferings? Or would you choose to live fully so that every second becomes a new opportunity? The Buddha once taught, "The past is gone. The future has not yet arrived. Only the present moment truly belongs to us." That saying seems simple, but contains a profound philosophy of life. For no matter how glorious or dark the past may be, we cannot change it. The future is vast and uncertain. No one can firmly grasp it. Only the present is the foundation for everything. If you live deeply in each moment, you are building a solid future and leaving the past light. Imagine a clear glass jar. You can pour clear water into it, or you can pour muddy water. If today you choose anger, greed, and delusion, you are pouring muddy water into the jar of your life. But if today you choose forgiveness, gratitude, and love, that jar will be filled with clear, fresh water. Every day, we have the right to choose what we pour into our lives. That is the new opportunity that the present offers us. There is a famous story about Su Dongpo, the brilliant writer, poet, and calligrapher of the Song dynasty. He experienced many ups and downs in his life. Sometimes he was highly regarded, sometimes demoted and exiled to remote, desolate places. Once, after being demoted, his heart was filled with sadness. But instead of blaming, he sat by the river, watching the clouds drift and the water flow, and his heart gradually became serene. It was in that moment that he composed the poem, "Life is but a dream, a fleeting illusion. Each day lived is a renewal." That poem was not just the sentiment of a literary genius, but also an enlightenment. Life is inherently fragile and short, like a dream. So why do we waste each day on unnecessary worries? It was thanks to this clear insight that he lived peacefully and left behind many immortal literary works. If we know how to view life like Su Dongpo, we will see each day as an opportunity to start anew, to renew ourselves. No 2 days are alike. This morning's sunlight is not the same as yesterday morning's. The person you meet today, the words you speak today, cannot return exactly as they were before. Life, therefore, is a continuous flow of new opportunities. Only when we know how to cherish and live fully in each moment can we truly grasp the meaning of our lives. Try to remember how many times you let a day pass unconsciously just because you were too busy worrying, too immersed in your phone, in work, in meaningless conversations. Perhaps you missed your mother's warm gaze as she prepared a meal, missed your father's small inquiry, missed the sight of children's smiles, missed the birds singing outside the eaves. These seemingly ordinary things are actually true happiness. Once lost, we can never get them back. In Buddhist teachings, there is a concept called mindfulness. Mindfulness means living fully in the present, having clear awareness of everything you do, every breath you take. When you eat, truly eat. Savor the flavors. Be grateful to all who contributed to the meal. When you walk, truly walk. Feel your feet touch the ground. Hear the wind rustle through your hair. When you converse, truly listen. Don't rush to judge. Don't let your mind wander elsewhere. Living this way, you will see each day as a miracle. If yesterday you spoke carelessly and hurt someone, today is an opportunity to apologize and renew that relationship. If yesterday you were consumed by failure, today is an opportunity to start fresh. If yesterday you forgot yourself, today is an opportunity to return to your soul, to take a deep breath, to feel that you are still alive. We don't need to wait for a special day to renew our lives. This very moment, you are entirely capable. There's a simple exercise you can try today. Prepare a small notebook. Every morning when you wake up, write a sentence. Today I am grateful for. Then fill it in with anything that comes to mind. It could be because you are still healthy, because you have a roof over your head, because you heard your mother's voice, or simply because you have the opportunity to breathe in a new day. Writing like this every day, you will find your mind lighter, and you will naturally learn to appreciate every moment. Another very effective exercise is mindful breathing. Just sit still, close your eyes, place your hand on your abdomen, take a deep breath, feel the air flowing in. Then exhale slowly, feeling the release. Repeat a few times, and you will find your mind gradually calming down like a still lake after a storm. In that moment, you will understand that you are alive, you are present, and this is an opportunity to renew yourself. When we truly live fully in each day, we will find life becomes much richer. A caring glance, a gentle word, a small act can all become sources of joy. We will have less anger, less greed, less fear. Because we understand that each day is a gift, and nothing is worth wasting that gift. I want to tell you not to wait until you lose your health to appreciate the days you are alive. Don't wait until loved ones depart to cherish every minute together. Don't wait until old age knocks on the door to regret the years that have passed. Every morning, you wake up. When you still feel your heart beating, know that it is a new opportunity to love, to forgive, to truly live. You can start right now. Stand up, go out onto the balcony, breathe in the breeze. Look at the sky and smile. Call your parents and say thank you. Hug your children tightly. Let them know how much you love them. Tell yourself, I am grateful that I am still alive. These things are small, but they are how you renew your life in every moment. I send you a wish. May every day you wake up be a truly new day, an opportunity to renew yourself, a beginning for peace and happiness. Live fully each day, because no one can live your life for you. And always remember, live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. My dear friend, try to imagine a late afternoon after a long day of work. You sit quietly by the window, watching the sunset cast its light over the rooftops. Your heart suddenly filled with many thoughts. You think about the things others said to you during the day, words of praise, words of criticism, even scrutinizing glances that made you feel heavy-hearted. How many times have you cared too much about gossip, only to lose your inner peace? Actually, life is just like that. People will talk, they will look, they will judge, but they can never live your life for you. Happiness or suffering, peace or sorrow, ultimately, it is you who must bear and transform them. The Buddha once taught that among all phenomena, the mind is the root. When the mind is at peace, everything is at peace. When the mind is disturbed, everything is disturbed. Just that one short sentence is enough for us to understand that the core issue lies not in the world's praise or criticism, but in how we confront our own minds. If we constantly follow public opinion, constantly bow our heads before judgmental glances, we will be swept into an endless whirlpool. But when we stop, take a deep breath, and return to ourselves, we realize true freedom. Try to think of a familiar story. There was a young woman who, from childhood to adulthood, always lived under the scrutinizing gaze of relatives and neighbors. When she was little, she was compared to her older sister. "Why aren't you as smart as your sister?" When she grew up and started working, she heard, "Why don't you get married? Why are you still so absorbed in your work?" Then, when she got married, she endured reproaches. "Why haven't you had children yet? Why don't you know how to keep your husband?" Her entire life was lived in the shadow of gossip, to the extent that sometimes, when she sat alone, she still heard faint voices of others in her mind. But then one day, she stopped. She realized that the more she tried to live to please others, the more she lost herself. She began to learn meditation, learned to breathe, and smile at herself. Gradually, she felt lighter, not because everyone around her stopped talking, but because she no longer cared too much about those things. She understood that her life was her own. No one could bear her joys or sorrows for her. And that was the day she truly embarked on the path to freedom. That story is like a mirror for us to reflect on ourselves. Each of us has at some point been hurt by a remark, has felt heavy-hearted because of a look. But do you know that those words only exist for a moment, while the emotions you hold on to are what prolong the suffering? People may speak and then forget, but you carry the sadness for many days. Therefore, the most important lesson is to learn to let go. Letting go doesn't mean indifference, but choosing not to let your mind be bound by what is not worth it. If you want to practice right now, I invite you to try a small exercise. Find a quiet space, sit down, relax your shoulders, and take a deep breath. As you exhale, imagine yourself putting down all the criticism, scrutinizing glances, and mocking laughter. You don't need to carry them with you anymore. Write this sentence on a piece of paper. Live according to conditions. The more you cling, the more you suffer. Each day, you only need to read it once to remind yourself that peace lies in letting go. Additionally, you can practice gratitude. Every evening before bed, write down 3 things you are grateful for that day. Even small things like a smile, a glass of cool water, or a greeting. When your heart is filled with gratitude, the whispers outside will naturally fade away. Do you know? Life is short. Some people spend their lives pleasing the world. Only when their hair turns gray do they suddenly realize they have forgotten themselves. Don't wait until that day to return to yourself. Right now, You can choose to live authentically with your heart. Choose peace amidst life's many storms. The Buddha once said that no one can save themselves but themselves. No one can do it for you. No one can carry your burdens for you. On the surface, it seems strict, but in reality, it is a loving reminder. Because only when we take control of our own lives do we truly attain freedom and happiness. Therefore, I want to send you a message from the bottom of my heart. Don't care too much about what others think of you, because happiness is something you hold in your own hands. I invite you to join me in taking a deep breath, relaxing your whole body, letting go of the burdens in your mind, and smiling gently at yourself. In this very moment, you have returned. You have found your most peaceful home, your heart. And I hope that with each new day, you can walk lightly, confidently, live according to conditions, letting go, and with serenity.